Welcome back to On the Road podcast with myself, Florence Musundwa, the convener of the Road Freight SME Summit. As you know, the podcast is brought to you by the Road Freight SME Summit. Let me first thank all the new subscribers on YouTube, on TikTok. Thank you all for your comments. Make sure that you like, you subscribe to the platform, and you also engage us. We would love to hear from you, and we love hearing from you. On today's episode, we're going to be talking all things technology, all things telematics, as part of our partnership with the Transport Evolution Africa to have a dedicated episode with one of their leading exhibitors, being CarTrack. But before I introduce my guest that we have today, I just want to mention or bring it to remembrance that in South Africa, freight, 85% of it is still road freight. And in that space, there's a lot of small and medium enterprises. And it's very important that we educate our small and medium enterprises around technology and the adoption of telematics. And that's why we are having this conversation. Furthermore, there is a big challenge that we have in South Africa, I think across the world, which is driver fatigue. It is said that close to 39% of accidents on the road that are caused by trucks is due to driver fatigue. With that, I'm going to introduce my guest today, which is Brett Smith. Welcome, Brett.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure, Florence.
Thank you. We've had, today has been interesting. I think we can, as making sure that we have this interview has been quite a transport, logistics, telematics, because communication played a very big role in it. But thank you so much for making it. I am told that you like golf.
I love golf. Am I a great golfer? No, but I try.
I like that. I really like that. And also, you were saying earlier that you've been in this industry for 14 years.
Yeah.
That's quite a long time. How have you seen the space of small and medium enterprises adopting to telematics? You work for one of the largest telematics company, hint, nudge, nudge. They might be leading the pack. What has been your experience?
So I think let's start at the technology. So the evolution of the tech, whether it be in vehicle, the change in tech, how we apply the data, how we contextualize the data to give value back to different customers and different application. That's been probably the biggest evolution. And I think now more than ever, we're probably getting more adoption from the SME market and the smaller businesses. The reason being is because they understand the criticalness of adopting technology in their business in order to improve their operation. And most importantly is bottom line, is how do I maximize my bottom line profit through micro changes, having technology in my vehicles. And I mean, that's the end goal. And we'll continue publishing whether you have one truck, one vehicle, one van, up to 1,000 trucks in the big, large enterprise customers, that tracking and telematics is extremely relevant in all business applications.
Very true. And we could say telematics is quite a huge tool coming to risk management. Break it down to us. For somebody that has heard about it or they want to get into the industry, so to say. And another one that has probably the technology in their operations, but they're not using the entire features of their generic package. What is telematics?
Okay, so let's start fundamentals. What is telematics? It is the installation of a GPS or an IoT device, fleet management device. There's lots of terminology for it. Essentially providing vehicle data, GPS data, various GPS and data points installed into a vehicle through, majority of the time, the GSM or mobile network, through a server infrastructure, and then eventually to a customer's platform where they would have unique logins and credentials on a software as a service environment, and they'd be able to track their fleet live from basically anywhere in the world. As long as you have an internet connection with those unique credentials, you've got the ability to have visibility on your fleet.
Yeah, you earlier offline, that is, you said something quite intriguing. You said the adoption from the small and medium enterprises has increased over the years because they are seeing the value of telematics. Would you say they are also utilizing it to the extent that which operations that are way bigger or organizations that are way bigger than 20 trucks are? or there is a challenge with resources as human capital that could assist them in-house to utilize their technology or their telematics package internally?
I think there's a couple of answers in that.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is you got to understand who the business is. We're in a day of age where everyone is tech savvy. We all currently have engaged in some sort of e-commerce. We understand the person purchasing now is more educated than ever before. And I'll give you an example. My B2B, business-to-business call center is absolutely booming. And it was a strange thing to think that I didn't think South Africa was ready to buy virtually.
Interesting.
Our customers now are more educated in terms of what they want. They understand their business challenges. They know exactly what type of tech would solve it. And it's trying to find the right price point. So now telephonically or through virtual demonstrations, we are able to solve the customer's needs by running through needs analysis, business operation, having really skilled staff, and delivering a product that is, for me, extremely well priced. And when I started in the business 14 years ago, we were probably 40% more expensive than we are now, which is strange to think.
Oh, wow.
After inflation, after cost of living is going up, the business scaling and the competitiveness of the market, unfortunately, slightly reduced margins, but we are able to source cheaper components. We are able to have critical mass in our buying power. And predominantly the big players are all in a similar boat. And the cost of the device has become extremely attractive and palatable. And I think we said offline that I said, these devices can go for under 300 Rand. And if you look at it in a road freight environment, is if the wheels are not moving, they're not making money.
Hundreds.
So the business environment is to travel, pretty much every single day of the month. And if I can't show 10 Rand in the value of a tracking and fleet management device, you sort of lost the plot. So there's a lot of adoption at small to medium enterprises because they see the value of telematics. Not only that, there's another interesting fact that it's the insurance component as well.
Yes.
There's an element of the grudge purchase and you're uninsurable, whether it be your GIT, goods in transit, alternatively actually insuring your asset. If you don't have a reputable or recognized tracking device, you're uninsurable. Now, if a truck, anything from 1 million to 3 million Rand, you cannot unfortunately take that risk.
100.
So there's a lot of things happening at the moment in the space, but I think long story short is it's become very accessible to the small to medium enterprise.
And in our previous episode, we talked about insurance and we also looked into the 40%. Apparently, there's like 40% of uninsured small and medium enterprises. And I thought maybe this is not a new vehicle. It could be, somebody that has, you've bought it's not even second-hand truck, it's probably third-hand truck or something like that. But back to the price units that you mentioned, you said one device could be 300 Rands, and I'm assuming it's per truck that you'll have to install it. What does it do for me? I know a lot of small, medium truck operators, they cry about their profit margins. They cry about the high fuel costs. They cry that operational costs and maintenance of fleet is very high. So what does it do for that 3 to let's say 600 device unit in my truck in dealing with these elements that I'm trying to reduce the costs on? How does it help me?
So let's start so first of all, you're getting visibility. Absolutely critical for running an operation virtually. It is your eyes on the road when you can't be there in the truck if you're not an owner-driver environment and you have a driver employed. It's the entry-level driver behavior. How do I reduce my wear and tear? I utilize technology to improve things like driver risk profiling, utilizing telematics data, which is harsh braking, harsh accelerating, green band driving, fuel consumption, gear ratios. Those are all accessible and available data points for the business owner to make use of. Are
they making use of the information? Because like I mentioned earlier, I talked about the issues around the accidents that we still have on the road. And I just don't know the stats correctly, but there's a number of other small and medium enterprises closing down their businesses because of the volatility of the industry. With all these features and that will enable a transporter or an operator to make data-informed decisions for them to optimize their business. Do you think, honestly, are majority of them using the information that they're getting, such as, like you talked about, hush braking or driver behavior driving? Are they making use of it?
I wouldn't say that there's full adoption around the full feature set of it. I think there could definitely be a better understanding of the value that they have in their vehicles, the reporting deck, understanding how to interpret the reporting that they're receiving from the device, understanding a simple thing. Let's go back to where would they get value? Now, I have a truck and it's typically 400-liter tank. I'm now driving a load from Johannesburg to Durban, and I'm going to make use of the telematics data, one, to make sure that my vehicle's on time to reach its end destination. There would be service level agreements around arrival time within the certain parameter that they don't get held up on van Rieman's with an accident. But there's also very tangible stuff that can help the business owner. And one is, we speak about diesel theft and the siphoning of diesel. Now, there's a host of different technology. That industry wouldn't be booming if it wasn't a problem. So Cartrack's tech having that is identifying one, consumption, if it's out of the norm. Where do I need to go back and have a look at, was there potential around driver behavior, or was there something untoward? And with our fuel management software, we have the ability to give that information back to the owner to assess what was the cause of high consumption.
And are you finding that within your portfolio, client portfolio, they're coming and saying, Brett, we have it, but we are not getting the benefit of having it? Are you finding that? Are you finding, or they're just happy to have it because it's linked to insurance and it's a risk mitigation strategy in inverted commas, and they're not using the data, like what you're saying, the interpretation of the reports? Are you seeing a lot of your clients coming to you to say, here's our report, we really don't understand what it's saying, and please help us? Yeah.
There is that element, and there's also the other side, which you mentioned originally, is that I have a tracking device because my insurance requires it. I trust my driver wholeheartedly, and I don't need the telematics data to run my business.
That attitude is, I think it's quite prominent.
Yes, absolutely is.
You are very optimistic.
I am, and remember, I'm sitting on this side of the this side of the table, being a promoter of telematics, because I understand the value and I'm passionate about the information that the devices give. And I think we've made it so accessible that it should be adopted at every single business. Now, what we have to do as a business is we have to educate our customers better on how they improve their business operation, because essentially that's what we do. Is if we wouldn't be in business if we didn't have the ability to improve or inform or give better insights into what's happening within the mobility ecosystem. And I love that word, mobility ecosystem. Absolutely, because there's so many facets that we currently solve as a business to our clients in different applications.
You mentioned a big one, diesel theft, and that you've got softwares that deal with that. What is I'm trying to find the right words to frame the question that you believe transport operators should really pay attention to it. What would you say to operators that are not paying attention to diesel theft and also not paying attention to adopt such solutions that you have, because they're bleeding? The more diesel they are, whether I don't want to say their drivers are stealing it or whomever is stealing it, they're bleeding in their business.
I think if you're running a business with a medium or heavy commercial truck carrying commodity, and you're not looking at diesel as part of your major expense,
it is,
and you don't see value in paying attention to that, I almost have to say it's not great business advice. That's not a great business acumen that you have. So what is the major cost that you have? You're probably going to have the cost of the asset, either under a finance arrangement, which, in this day and age, a small enterprise is not going to go and fork out 2 million rand for a truck to buy outright. It's under some sort of finance arrangement. And the second part would be your diesel. And even after that, then it would be wages. But is the diesel is definitely there. If you're not looking at the expenses going as how do I reduce this to improve what we mentioned in the beginning, bottom line, you're not making good business decisions.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned also two words, very key, wear and tear, which is maintenance, fleet maintenance in the space. Breakdowns are a huge cost for any transport operator. How does then the technology and some of the features within this device assist transport operators to preempt, maybe, to predict, maybe breakdowns, and also to be on top of breakdowns? I would say, when I'm saying on top of them, like you are cognizant of what will be required for you to make sure that your vehicle is downtime is not as high as it could possibly be.
Yeah. I think it comes back to what did I say in the beginning? If the wheels are not turning, you're not making money.
Yeah, downtime.
So how do I mitigate that downtime to the best of my ability? And I think it starts with, we use the word predictive maintenance. So you want to make sure that your service intervals are done at regular, and as per the OEM, they'll decide the intervals depending on the application you're running. If you've got a taut liner, you would have a certain and running only freeway work versus something that is maybe potentially carrying commodity and on a mining road. So you'd have different wear and tear and intervals of service. So knowing what those intervals are and adhering to those would be the first level feature and benefit that tracking can give you. What is the current kilometers versus what is my expected scheduled maintenance?
Yes.
How do I get those automations? And we offer, what it is what the owner has to look at is, what is the digital and digitalization of preventative maintenance? It is, first of all, getting either on hours worked or kilometers driven, some sort of notification with enough gap to allow you to plan your business and not compromise your customer service with whatever contract that you're currently running. So that would be first line for me. The next is looking at driver behavior. You spoke about offline that you had a separate one on driver behavior and driver coaching and driver assistance, is taking big steps towards having a better driver in your asset will go a long way to wear and tear. But you
and I know that a lot of people are taking chances
absolutely
on the road. You and I know that as great as what you are providing, or as great as this conversation and the solution is, there is a chunk of transport operators, even as some of them will listen to this, they will roll their eyes, say, I do not have that extra XYZ or extra 6,000 rands, to make sure that I've got these devices in my fleet. What do you have to say to those people? And I will tie it back to your favorite word when you said mobility ecosystem, because we are all part of the ecosystem. And also, 85% of transport is still on road. So there are a big chunk of transport operators that are on the road without, telematics, because they're just rolling their eyes. What do you say to that person that's saying, I don't have that 6,000 rands?
I think there's too many cases of, I'd say Pennywise, pound foolish.
Pennywise, pound foolish.
Yes.
Okay.
So
break it down.
So what I mean is, for a very small investment to get this information at your disposal, the long term could be a serious engine failure on your truck for the small compromise of 300 Rand a month. And I'm using hypothetical numbers because they vary. To have a engine malfunction and oil pressure that's compromised the vehicle, which is going to be in standing for anything from 2 weeks to 6 weeks to, depending on your finances, indefinitely. So is small investment, long-term gain. Using technology for the longevity of my business and operation or asset. So for me is make those decisions that are the right ones. Would I change my tires at the right time? I need to, because if I don't have tires, the vehicle won't go. Eventually I have a blowout. And there's lots of, small decisions that businesses make for the long term. And it goes back to the opening discussions. Are SMEs adopting?
Yeah.
They have tracking. Are they fully utilizing the feature set? Probably not. Is it at their disposal and extremely financially accessible? I am 100% confident that it is.
So then, in what you're saying, I can conclude to say there's an education gap of how I used to do things as a transport operator and how I need to do things now for me to remain in business. And once an entrepreneur decides to upgrade themselves and develop themselves to improve their operations, chances are they will be more open to making sure that they've got technology, they're adopting it, etc. The education of the team of the transport operator, when I say the team, is the human capital, from the fleet controller to the operations manager to the warehouse or the workshop manager, the mechanics. What is your view around their understanding around telematics? Because as an entrepreneur, I could get it. And I would say, yes, let's get the devices in our trucks. It's going to help us with XYZ. But you and I know that a lot of small operators struggle with human capital because of the resources to pay the right people.
Correct.
How do they go around that challenge so that this device could be utilized to its, in its entirety? But yet, and I'm sure you get the point I'm trying to drive, is some entrepreneurs are very well experienced, or they want to grow, but their teams, because of the resources that they have, might lack certain aspects competency-wise, and there could be the blockage. How does then the entrepreneur go back and make sure that their team is educated on this?
I think it's to say is, let me use the right wording, is a CEO turning a blind eye to the balance sheet. It's short-sighted if an owner has the technology adoption in his head and he has an expectation that it's going to be fulfilled in business. It's his responsibility as the payee of this tracking device and telematics and whatever other tech that they fit in there, is that the business adopts his vision. It's bad CEO if you've got employees with not on the same path. And it would be is, as a telematics provider, agreeing with the CEO around his deliverables and what he's expecting in business, to tell me as a provider that workshop manager, maintenance manager, whoever the personnel is, they are fully equipped with the information that's in my vehicle to adopt it to better improve their job within my business.
Do you offer training for the teams? So if I get the device, and earlier on you talked about a needs an assessment, do you go into that aspect of the businesses where you can do a needs assessment on the skill set of the company, so that you could afford them some training upon onboarding and regular check-ins with them?
So it's probably in two parts. First is pre-sale. Pre-sale is assessing what the business challenges are, identifying what the customer's budget is in order for us to cover all those challenges. And once he's adopted the technology, is what you were asking now is, what does the training look like?
Yes.
So in our business at CarTrack, we believe that training is free. It is for as many times as you need it. And it's quite a simple ethos that we have. The better the customer knows our platform, the more features he will use, the more value will be gained, the longer the customer will stay on our books. So ours is offered virtually, it's offered in person, and the business or the landscape of selling fleet management, telematics, video telematics, various other tech is changed. It's not a transactional sale anymore. It's very much consultative. There is, even at small to medium enterprises, there is dedicated personnel on that particular account to engage with customer, find out the adoption of the platform, have a look at the reports. It's very much a consultative sale.
And what I'm hearing you say is it's going to take the owners themselves to be very intentional It's not just like what you were saying. It's not transactional ways. Just I'm buying it and installing it into my vehicle so
And
that
goodbye.
and
Yeah.
goodbye is the benefits of telematics, which ultimately speaks to the sustainability of your business and the optimization of your systems is going to require a lot of intentionality for the entrepreneur. And that leads me to the conversation that I said we're going to have. This conversation is fatigue, but it has to be spoken about. And it's driver fatigue.
Yep.
Which contributes largely to accidents, which, and also just driver behavior with the asset. Are you seeing a lot of your clients interpreting, obviously they get the report, do you see them executing on the data that they're receiving from the reports, coming to their drivers, or the profit margins are so thin that they're like, okay, Brett, I see it. I can tell Florence is not the greatest female truck driver, but I have to get my wheels on the road.
Yeah.
What is your experience with that aspect?
Okay, so let's start with fatigue management.
Yeah.
I think what's happened is fatigue is absolutely critical. I think as you hit nail on the head, it's a high percentage contributor to motor vehicle accidents, to truck accidents, to rollovers, and by the introduction of tech. So tech on fatigue has improved significantly. We've adopted in our business. It's part of our sales pitch. Every single client we go to, whether it be SME, large enterprise, small bucky fleets, van fleets, everyone is starting to talk about adopting cameras within their business.
Yeah.
Now, our fatigue management works by utilizing the AI within the tech, understanding and looking at the eyes, the facial pose, all those
as the driver's driving.
Correct, all those features, and then giving audible responses back to the driver, saying that fatigue has been detected, and at the same time simultaneously capturing the footage for data purposes, and I'll get to that later. If required, understanding what that footage looks like in a bureau center, off-site, and then escalating to try and get that truck driver off the road. You've got different paraphernalia that gets added onto fatigue. You've got seat vibrators. You've got sirens. You've got something and what are you looking for? You're looking to jolt the driver to come out of that fatigue state in micro-sleeping or actually full sleep, and address the situation that he doesn't roll that truck, have an accident, brand reputation, truck off road, the potential of other lives being lost, the driver's life. So what we've also done is in business, we also promote this is not a monitoring tool. This is a safety tool. This is a driver behavior tool. And under the right conditions in a coaching platform can be extremely valuable.
And are you finding the truck drivers adhering to having your seat vibration for you to park aside? Are you seeing them become more open to making sure that they are adhering to these notifications or the nudges of the devices as they are driving?
Yeah. So
it's a tough question.
It is a tough question because, we provide all the tech and all the information, and we alert the business around the potential risk that they've asked us to alert them on. And if you're not taking action, you've made a bad business decision on an investment that we've provided you with the information to prevent that accident.
Hundreds.
So the driver coaching lands up at the transporter or at the SME or at the business owner to say, this is how we're going to deal with fatigue. This is how we're going to deal with mobile compliance in our vehicle. And the simple safety features. If you're a transporter that wants to adopt safety in your business, you take the measures to make sure that the tech that you're installed is going to be utilized.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you say also is you could provide the best of devices. At the end of the day, the culture of the organization is going to be the one that determines whether this solution is being adopted correctly,
Correct.
It's been executed correctly. And that also speaks to the naysayers that would say, no, we heard about that. Actually, they just want more money from us.
Yes.
And the responsibility, yet again, It's not necessarily with you because you've provided the best solution. It's within the transport operators and their team, their employees and the drivers themselves to make sure that they're utilizing what is at their disposal. Am I correct?
You're correct, but it's not a shrug shoulder to say it's not my problem. As a service provider and a partner of our customers, it is our responsibility to provide the information, make it as palatable, easy to read, translatable, so they can make those informed decisions. You know, if month one, your cell phone and your fatigue is progressing by 16%, we haven't seen a positive trend. Are you aware of this? You know, if I sit back and turn a blind eye to it, it's not that consultative sale. It's not that consultative relationship.
You're not building a relationship
100%.
around it. And now it brings me to another question, and I think I will stay on the drivers for some time. Now, driver training.
Yep.
Yes, I know you just mentioned that you try to have a relational relationship consultative with your clients. Do you also assist in that regard?
We don't do driver training. We have partnerships. We know of companies that we recommend. But driver training businesses would utilize the telematics data to give them first line information around what are the areas that we need to address with this particular driver.
So with your experience, how has it saved people money?
What?
The
Tracking.
devices, yeah.
The devices.
Telematics, your solution, how has it saved some of your clients money?
Let's start with the one that is probably the hottest topic. If it's not cameras and fatigue and preventing accidents and mitigating direct asset loss, it would be on fuel. So for us is identifying if there is any untoward fuel siphoning. It's being able to notify it, address that in the business. I mean, look at the price of diesel at the moment. What is it? Close to 20 odd rand.
Above 20.
Above 20 rand.
Or towards 20.
Correct.
It's somewhere 20.
Yeah, it's 20, definitely. What are the typical canisters that they take? It's a 25 litre. You know, you're already at 500 rand. One transaction, one potential siphoning. If I can show that and root that out of their business in terms of a potential bad apple, you know, I've already shown my return on investment.
And on the safety part, do you have any experiences where your solution either helped one of your clients on a hijack or in the insurance claims? Can you share?
A lot. So we, as a business, we fit in, give or take, 55,000 devices on a monthly basis. You know, a big bulk of that is into the commercial aspect, and a lot of them do it. I mean, we do asset recovery. So in the event of a stolen vehicle, we go out, we recover the vehicle, and in turn, what have you done for them? You've returned their money-making asset. So that for me is already, it's one part. I know we're more into fleet management, and that's where the future is. We're talking data, but in South Africa, it's extremely relevant, whether it be goods in transit support.
Very true.
Or direct truck, vehicle, medium, or small commercial vehicle. They're all extremely valuable assets within a business. So offering that support to our clients through sophisticated tech in order to recover their vehicles is extremely important.
Yes, and you just touched on something around the context of our country. Crime is we've got a very high crime rate in our country. And I am, you know, under the assumption that having your devices, having telematics, having some form of a technology solution could assist you in your business coming to navigate, not even navigating, but trying to remain in business in this country that's very faced with a high crime rate. Would you also agree?
Yes, I'd agree. And I'll tell you why is I had an interesting conversation, it was just yesterday, with a customer that's in Korea. Now they do everything from the basic parcel, we call it the last mile, to the door-to-door, you know, from DC to DC. So it's not only crime happening for their soft targets. You've got a branded vehicle. You're potentially camming some sort of e-commerce, high value commodity, but it's all
very true.
It's all chance. But they are the soft targets at the moment, and we support them by you know, trying to understand when that happens, reacting as quick as possible to try and mitigate that load lost. we won't get into it because it's probably another story, but the big distribution center to distribution center transport where it's the blue light stop.
Yes.
The blue light stop, which is not necessarily actual police, and it's there for a particular reason. So that's also extremely prominent in the courier and logistics space. You carry some sort of high value commodity.
You do.
You are running the risk of being intercepted, being targeted. And they are extremely sophisticated syndicates that do this.
They are.
Some of it's petty crime because you have branding, but majority of the time it's very targeted, it's syndicate driven, and they understand exactly what they want and the commodity that's being targeted.
Yeah, you just touched another one, but I don't want to continue with this because ultimately it all speaks to it. Without the right solutions within your business or systems and processes within your business, you are exposed to a lot of many things that could contribute to you closing down your business. And one of it is what you've just mentioned with the syndicates that are across South Africa and also across our continent as it is. Right now, looking into 2026 and beyond, I know you are very optimistic around the adoption of the solution and you're seeing it within your organization. Earlier on, you were telling me about your numbers as a company. What does the future hold?
So I'm extremely optimistic, it's probably the right word, about the future of SA. And the reason being is because I've seen it in our numbers. We're an exceptional business, but there's nothing magical about it. We're applying great value tech into the market, which is being adopted, and we're seeing the increase in the adoption on a month-on-month, quarter-on-quarter, year-on-year basis. And I don't see that trajectory stopping. We'll never stop adapting to the market needs. The business like ours is constantly trying to find ways to support our customers in different areas that potentially are new challenges. We all know about the old ones. What is new? What's coming to the market? And we spoke a little bit about signal jamming and how that compromises vehicles and goods in transit loss. So we'll get to that. But I see the evolution of video telematics, the customers' adoption to video inside vehicle to support from a safety perspective, to support the handling of their goods, to manage the handling and offloading or loading and offloading of their goods, but ultimately to reduce the amount of accidents, single vehicle accidents, single truck accidents, multiple pileups, all the nasty stuff that you see on the road at the moment is what are you doing to stop that? And I'm passionate that South Africa's got an extremely mature market, an educated market, is specifically in transport.
Oh, wow.
Compared to a first world country, we are extremely mature. We have educated transporters. They know exactly how to run a business. They know what tech can do to help them. And we're just going to follow that trajectory into the future.
Just share slightly more around the signal jamming of vehicles. Share more. What is it about? What does it do? Yeah.
Good. So signal jamming's been around for a while. We really got into the market to understand that this is hurting the business, and about 3 years ago, where it is a signal jammer. They come in all shapes and forms. It's deliberate to interrupt the signal of a tracking device or any communication device in vehicle. And the intention is to either compromise the tracking device or lose visibility long enough so I can get whatever's in that vehicle. Whether it be petty crime to just go for driver belongings, more intentional for vehicle, or very syndicate driven for the load. They all have a place, and it's quite rife at the moment. These can be procured through some online sites. They can land up in SA into the wrong hands, and they're deliberately being used to interrupt the signal of tracking devices to compromise whatever those three that I mentioned. So what did we do? We went to market to say, how do we mitigate this? How do we get early notification if you can't communicate to home base? And number two is, how can I get visibility on this asset to support my customer, either to recover the load, recover the vehicle, or get some sort of visibility or trace back to support them in the investigation. So we, in our technology, we invested heavily into building our proprietary network. What does that mean is every tracking device that we install for the last 2 years comes out with a CarTrack proprietary network.
All right.
Each of them have a radius of up to 3 kilometers that they bounce signals off each other. Now, a signal jammer in itself it's quite small. If you had to put a jammer in this, it would stop our podcast, first of all. But it's got a very small range. Now,
so it doesn't go to the...
Correct. So it's what we did at CarTrack is now I know the vehicle is being jammed because I get the early notification. It runs through a couple of very sophisticated protocols to mitigate false alarms. We then move over to our proprietary network. And because of our numbers on a monthly, daily, weekly basis of installations, it's a growing network. And they call it you become extremely effective when you got critical mass. So we only went to market with it in terms of our public announcement is a couple of months ago because we had that critical mass. So we're very confident in the solution. So what it does is the single jamming happens. We get it into our control room. We notify our customers. We move over to our proprietary network. We're dispatching through our teams, and we are actually getting near real-time updates of that vehicle's movement by using the network of other vehicles in and around it.
Hundreds. I think we've covered quite a lot.
There's a lot.
We've covered quite a lot, and I'm now very optimistic after this conversation that most transport operators are pro-technology. And they are pro-telematics within the industry. And like in the words that you've used to say that we've got a mature audience within the space, and they are adopting some of these solutions in their business so that they can remain in business and become more sustainable. Is there any last words, your closing remarks to the transport operator that has 4 trucks, that does not have a direct contract, that's been subcontracted, and their profit margins are very low? And do you have anything to say to them to say, maybe consider telematics?
Yes, I think we've said a lot, and I think I've given enough points to say that it's valuable. Even at the price point, at a entry-level fleet management device, there's still significant value. And if you pay attention to the data that's been provided, you do I call them micro gains. Understand what attention you want to, what do you want to focus on in terms of your micro gains to add value to your business.